I get a lot of people asking me how we were blessed to walk away from corporate America in our early 30s. Well, listen, I don't want to keep that a secret. I want to share it with the world. And so maybe you're listening to this podcast and you're trying to figure out how do I even get started on my journey of entrepreneurship and getting to a level of freedom. Well, text the word freedom to 737 777 9909. Enter your information in, and we look forward to sharing some information with you. A proven system with small overhead, right? That you can do part-time, spare time, right from the comfort of your home, and have amazing mentors, coaches, and a community of entrepreneurs who are willing to support you and help you on your journey to freedom. Welcome to Code Freedom. I'm your host, Eddie Bales. Have you ever felt stuck? Have you ever felt like there's got to be more than life than the reality that you see every day? Tune in weekly, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays as we crack the codes to freedom in every area of your life. Welcome to Code Freedom. I'm your host, Eddie Bales, and this is episode 136. And today we're going to talk about relationships. We haven't talked about relationships in quite a while. And yesterday, my wife and I, we were fortunate to be on a panel for a couples event. And it was exciting, it was fun, and we got a chance to answer a lot of questions for the crowd that was there. And so one of the questions that I want to share, and let me backtrack. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this is not even just some of you may be single and don't even have a partner, right? But it's still important to understand and having navigating great relationships for a lot of reasons. I mean, business relationships, family relationships, and then of course, spousal relationships and things like that. So part of being free is having solid, strong relationships. Because look, um, you know, when you're done working your business and things like that, or you're done taking over the world, don't you want to at least have somebody there with you? I mean, do you want to? And again, I'm not saying that you have to, but I think if we're gonna shoot for freedom, what are we doing this for if we don't have someone to enjoy it with, right? I mean, if you get to travel the world, what's the point if you got to travel the world alone, right? And so I think we all want love. I think we all want someone that someone that's the key right there. Someone. I think we all want someone. Uh, and then from there, you add whatever else you want to add with that. But we all want someone that we can grow a life with, right? And have fun together. So one of the questions was how important is the five love languages? And I'll just say I think this is highly important. Matter of fact, it's so important. It was interesting that this question was asked because we just really learned what our nephew's love language is. Because again, this is not just about relationships with husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend, but like everyone has a love language, right? Now, of course, in the business environment, you know, y- if someone's love language is touch, I don't know that you need to just be touching them, right? But I'll even say like a pat on the back goes a long way, right? Or just how you shake someone's hand, maybe shaking it with two hands. I know people who do that. And I always kind of looks like what makes them do that, right? It's something about them that makes them do that purposely. That something that they know that they must have learned that causes them to shake hands with two hands, right? I have to study that one day. But anyway, um, and then you got the other person that shakes hands like they're in the military, and they're like almost want to rip your hand off. I've shaken a few hands like that, and it's interesting. but anyway, so the five languages. If you're not familiar with it, go to the number five lovelanguages.com and you can learn more about it. And this is where we had him take the quiz because there's even a place for kids to take the quiz. And we learned that my nephew's love language is words of affirmation. And so knowing that, I can pour into that a lot more because I know what it is, right? So, like an example is he plays basketball for a team, And the coach said, "Look, I see you three as a leader," and he was one of them. And you should have saw the way he just lit up when he said that. When someone has a love language of words of affirmation, you affirm certain things, and they will like light up, right? And so we all have different love languages, and I would even say we have several because we have a major, and I would say we probably have a minor, a close second, right? Or at least a dominant second, above all the other ones. So let me just tell you what they are, by the way, in case you don't know about it. Maybe you never heard of it. So you have words of affirmation, you have physical touch, you have receiving gifts, you have acts of service, and you have quality time. Right. So knowing what someone's love language is, it can be very helpful in how you handle them, how you deal with them, right? Like, because if someone's not receiving their love language, it's quite possible that they're not feeling loved, right? And it's not that you aren't showing them love, it's just that everyone receives love differently. And that's just it's a powerful concept to understand. Like for instance, I know my wife's love language is gifts, right? And so sometimes she would want to give me her love language, but my love language is not gifts, right? So, like, hey, I love gifts, but it doesn't make me jump up and down and scream for joy, right? Because that's not my love language, right? And so, just again, just understanding it and knowing how to navigate through it, I think is super, super powerful. So that was one of the questions, and I could really do a whole podcast episode on this one right here because it's that powerful. So like even my nephew, like so because I know his love language is words of affirmation, I'm always looking for ways that I can affirm him on certain things because I know that that's what it is. Now we just found out, so I'm about to go all in on that, but I would just say find out what your spouse's love language is and your kids and the close people around you if you can, and be conscious and aware of it so that you can um, you know play that thing out, right? So a couple of the other questions that was shared was um, one of them was describe how you and your spouse arrive at decisions. Now, for us, every relationship different, but I know for us, we always look to pray about decisions first and find out what the Father says. Right, that way we know if we can be in tune with Him, then everything else is going to line up, and then we come in tune together, and we can decide what's what. Right, like for instance, when we decided to get married. That was a powerful moment, right? And we came to that decision, right? Or obvious. Well, I asked the question, right? She accepted. But even from that, we made several other decisions, like we moved from Charleston to Greenville area, right? Greenville, South Carolina, and we would constantly make decisions, and the key part I think is communication, but for us it was having him in the center, having the Father uh to really uh you know guide us in the right direction. And once we seek him, I mean, look, it's not going to be the Father says one thing but we want to do another thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, that happens, but if we understand and we have heard from him, and we decide to do something totally opposite, we already know what to expect. So like it just makes making decisions easier when we know that we both have sought him, and it could be one of us. Like for instance, my wife may get a word from the Father, right? Before I do. Right now, don't get me wrong, I'm still going to keep praying to get my answer so that we can come together and make sure that we are in alignment. That's the key word, is alignment. So that's a big part of decision making, is just making sure that we align up with each other. Um, Now, one question that a couple had asked that I thought was really, really powerful is I think if I remember correctly, I think the question was along the lines of like, how do you handle disagreements? Oh, no, 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 I'm sorry. I'll get to that in a second too. But he asked, how do you like vent? How do you like blow off steam when it comes to certain things? And what I said is I journal. I like to journal because I can get everything out on paper. And because here's the challenge. The challenge is I learned this from a great friend of mine in Rochester, New York. He says it was a pastor actually. He says, never talk about your wife to your parents, your mom or your dad, and never talk about your parents to your wife, right? That way you don't like cause your wife to feel some kind of way or think or look at your parents a certain way, and then vice versa. Like when something hits the fan, and it's just things are just not lining up, things are not going right, and you just go running to your parents about it. Now you cause your parents to look at your spouse a certain kind of way, right? And the thing is, you are one, so like keep that between you and them. Don't get me wrong, I get having friends, but then you got to be careful what friends you seek counsel from too, because every friend doesn't have your well, your friend should have your best interest, right? Or why are they your friend? But I guess what I'm saying is every friend uh can't give you the best advice because you can have a great friend that doesn't have the best relationships, right? So like we have to be mindful who we ask. I think I mentioned this on another episode. One of my mentors used to say, never accept advice from anyone more screwed up than you are, right? That's how he said it, by the way. I didn't say it, he said it. But again, like we want to be mindful of who we accept advice from. I'm very conscious of that, right? Like I want to see your fruit before I ask you, um, uh, for advice. So anyway, but so that's what I said is I like to journal. I like to journal because I can get everything out, and I can even evaluate like, am I thinking the right way? Did I do the right things? But here's another powerful thing. I think it's also important that you can write things down and bring that to your spouse, right? Because now you're taking the tonality part out of it because sometimes it's the tone that messes up the whole conversation, right? Because one is feeling a certain way and the tone starts to come out, and then the other person may feel attacked, or they may feel, or like one bucks up and then the next one bucks up, and the next thing you know, we can't really have an intelligent conversation because both got their feelings in it, right? But when you can just put it on paper, you can read it, assess it, think about it, and then come back and talk about it and get it all out, right? You can get it all out without the tonality messing up. So that's the thing. It was so many great little tips like that that was shared, that I thought were really, really powerful. So the key to this episode, because I don't want to go on a rant or a ramble, right? But the key to this episode is that we must master relationships, and we must master relationships with the people who are closest to us, but also learn how to master relationships with people who we're going to interact with, right? Like business relationships and things like that. So it's great to understand how people tick, how people move, how people receive love, how people receive, um, how people operate, right? As a person, as an individual, so that if you want to develop a business relationship with them or even a personal relationship with them, you know how to handle them with care. And then one last thing I'll share that I didn't mention is give your spouse grace, right? Give your spouse grace because they're gonna have situations and things happen in their own life that will cause them to respond differently than maybe how you would respond to certain things. And knowing that, and sometimes the problem is not knowing that. Like maybe something happened at work and you didn't know about it yet, and then they come home and they feel some kind of way, and then they kind of project that off on you unintentionally, and then you go at them hard, like you respond, right? You get what I'm saying? And now you got two hurt people who are, because hurt people. So now you got two hurt people who are responding in such a way when all each of them had to do is give each other grace, right? So like for me, that's a tough one sometimes, but for me, I have to understand that if something's happening with my wife, that I need to learn how to read in between the lines and see what's not being said and give grace. Give grace, right? Because I don't know what she hadn't had a chance to tell me yet, or she's feeling and maybe doesn't want to talk about, just certain things like that. I mean, we could spend a lot of time on relationships, and we're going to talk more on relationships. I had a great couple on the show not too long ago. I'll see if I can pull up that archive and put that in the show notes in case you guys want to reference it. That was the one with Ken and Dee Lindsay, and we talked about relationships. I'll find the episode for you. But it's important. I just think it's so important that we understand these things and we take full advantage of it so that we can optimize our lives. We want to be happy. At the end of the day, we want love and we want to be happy, right? And there's lots of ways we can be happy. And there's also lots of ways we can receive love. And understanding these things can make your life a whole lot better, a whole lot more fruitful. And by the way, that episode was uh episode 38. So check that episode out if you want to go back and reference it. Got a lot of downloads as I'm looking back. But listen, I'm excited to just be able to share a couple things, couple ideas that can help. Relationships matter, and you want to really get good at that for multiple reasons. I mean, just to be able to know how to interact with your kids in a better way, right? Just to know how to interact with your spouse in a better way. And then, of course, if you can interact in business relationships in a great way, watch things start to shift because you become a master at relationships. So, listen, folks, thanks for tuning in. This is episode 136 of the Code Freedom Podcast. Don't forget to join our engagement group that we have on Facebook. It is at thewaytofreedom.info. Check that page out, join the group, and let's engage and get to know each other on another level. Because, look, I'm talking, but I would love to hear from you as an audience. And also, don't forget, screenshot this episode, tag me in it on Instagram, Facebook, wherever you follow us. And I love to give us 5-star reviews, right, so that more listeners can hear this type of advice and things of that nature. So, God bless you all. Take care, take charge, and thanks for tuning in. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you guys for listening. Definitely feel free to take a screenshot of this episode, tag me in it on Instagram or Facebook or wherever you find me on social media. I would love to give you a shout out. Hey, you might even get a prize. Who knows? But excited that you had a chance to take a listen. I hope you got a lot of value. And definitely feel free to give us 5 stars as well as a review. Show us some love, and we appreciate you. God bless you all, and see you all over the top.